kids.
Hi, Uncle Dan.
It's time to play.
That makes sense.
What kind of sense?
Per sense.
Yes, per sense. You know about fractions. Do you know about fractions?
Yes.
Do you know about decimals?
Yes.
So now you're going to learn about per sense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What is a percent? You don't know. Well, what does cent mean?
100.
Yes, how many cents are there in a dollar?
100.
And how many centavos are there in a peso?
100.
And how many centimeters in a meter?
100.
So cent means 100. How about per? I know. Per is the sound that the kitten makes when it goes to sleep and leaves its engine running, right?
No.
That's not what it means here. Per. Well, how about kilometers per hour? What does it mean if you're going 80 kilometers per hour in your car? What does per mean?
Each.
Yes, it means each hour. 80 kilometers for each hour. So percent means for each 100. 50% means 50 for each 100. A percent is just a number. Just like a fraction is a number and a decimal is a number, so is a percent. And we're going to learn how to change fractions and decimals into percents. Here's our first number. What is that number?
99 hundredths.
That's a decimal, and it's 99 hundredths. In order to change it into a percent, we have to do two things. First, we take the decimal point and move it 2 places to the right. Then we add a percent sign. Move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and it's at the end of the number. And when it's at the end of the number, then we don't need it anymore. It just becomes 99. And then we add the percent sign. 99%. Now, when I asked you to read it, you said what?
99 hundredths.
I'll just write that as a fraction. 99 hundredths. Can it be reduced?
No.
No, it can't. Okay, here's another decimal. What is that number?
9/10.
Okay, let's write that as a fraction. 9/10. Can it be reduced?
No.
No, it can't. Now, if we'd like to change it to a percent, we have to move the decimal point 2 places to the
Right.
1 and 2. Well, to go 2 places, we have to add a 0. I'll just do it like that, so you can barely see it. 2 places to the right gives us 90, and we add the percent sign. Now, read me that number.
90%.
Here's the next one. What does this number say?
45 hundredths.
We'll write it as a fraction. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
Yes, it can. With what number can we hit both top and bottom in order to reduce it?
5.
5. 5 into 45 is?
9. 9.
5 into 100 is
20.
20. That reduces to 9/20. We started out with 45 hundredths. We're going to move the decimal point to the right to change it into a percent. And how many places do we move it to the right?
2.
2 places to the right makes it 45. And we have to add the percent sign, and then it says what?
45%.
Here's another one. What does this number say?
5 hundredths.
5 hundredths. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
With what number can we hit both top and bottom?
5.
5 into 5 is?
1.
And 5 into 100 is?
20.
To change 5 hundredths into a percent, we move it 2 places to the right and add
A percent sign.
a percent sign. And we get 5%. When we move it 2 places to the right, we get the number 5, and we no longer need the 0 that we had in this tenths place. This time we'll start with a percent. In order to change a percent back into a decimal, we have to take off the percent sign and move the decimal point 2 places to the
Left.
2 places to the left. Now, I don't see any decimal point there. If you don't see a decimal point in the number, then where is it?
At the end.
It's at the end. So we have to put it in there or know where it would be so we can move it back to the left 2 places, and we get 0.67, and we've taken off the percent sign. Read for me this number.
67 hundredths.
And we'll write that as a fraction. 67 hundredths. Can it be reduced?
No.
No, it can't. It's already in lowest terms. Okay, here's another percent. Please read it for me.
40%.
Where is the decimal point in that number?
At the end.
We go back 2 places to the
Left.
and we take off the percent sign. Read me that number.
40 hundredths.
40 hundredths. But we know from our work with decimals that if we want, we can take off that 0 and still have a number of the same value. What does that number say now?
4/10.
4/10, which we write as a fraction. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
Yes, it can. With what number can we hit both the top and the bottom?
2.
2. 2 into 4 is?
2.
And 2 into 10 is?
5.
2/5. 40% is the same thing as 4/10 as a decimal, or 2/5 as a fraction. The next one, 25%. We move the decimal point 2 places to the
Left.
and we take off the,
Percent sign.
and as a decimal, this number is read,
25 hundredths.
which we can read as 25 hundredths as a fraction. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
With what number can we hit both top and bottom?
25.
Yes, the best and largest number that we can hit both top and bottom with is 25. How many 25s in 25?
1.
And how many 25s in 100?
4.
1/4 is the same as 25%. And 7%. We have to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. 1, 2. With what number do we have to fill this place?
0.
0. We had to go back 2 places. 1, 2, and put our decimal point there. What is that number?
700.
700. We'll write that as a fraction. Can it be reduced?
No.
No, it can't. That one is already in lowest terms. Why don't you cut it? This time we'll start with a fraction. What does this number say?
1900.
And we'll just write that as a decimal. The number is 19, and we had to go out to the 100th place to say the 19. 1900ths. To turn it into a percent, we move the decimal point 2 places to the
Right.
and add on a
Percent sign.
percent sign. The next one is 3/10. How do I write that as a decimal?
0.3.
0.3. Now I want to move that decimal point 2 places to the right. 1 and another. What do I have to fill this space with?
0.
A 0. I'll just lightly put in a 0. Then I have the number 30, and I add on the end a,
Percent sign.
and the answer is
30%.
3/10 is the same thing as 30%. The next one is 3/4. I want to change that to a decimal. First question that I ask myself is, does it have a 10 or a 100 already there on the bottom?
No.
Can I make it 10 or 100?
Yes.
Can I make it 10?
No.
But I can make it 100. How many times was 4 multiplied to get 100?
25.
Yes, 4 into 100 is 25, times 3 is 75. Now I can make that into a decimal, and what should I write?
7,500.
75 hundredths, and the way I spell that out is to say
75.
Moving it 2 places to the right, I get how much percent?
75%.
The next one is the fraction 9/15. Do I have 10 or 100 on the bottom?
No.
Can I make it 10 or 100?
Yes.
Does 15 go evenly into 10?
No.
Does 15 go evenly into 100?
No.
No, it doesn't. So I cannot make it 10 or 100. The next question I ask myself is, can I reduce it?
Yes.
Yes, I can. With what number can I hit both top and bottom?
3.
3. 3 into 9 is?
3.
3 into 15 is?
5.
5. Now, can I make the bottom number 10?
Yes.
Yes, I can. 5 goes into 10 how many times?
2.
Times 3 is
6.
6/10. How do I write that? How would I spell it out as a decimal?
0.6.
0.6. To make it into a percent, I want to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. 1 place and another place. I have to fill this place with a
0.
Then I have 60, and with a percent sign, this is red.
60%.
The next one is 7/14. Does it already have 10 or 100 on the bottom?
No.
Can I make it 10 or 100?
No.
Can I reduce it?
Yes.
I can hit both top and bottom with
7.
7 into 7 is,
1.
and 7 into 14 is.
2.
Can I now have 10 or 100 as my bottom number?
Yes.
I can use 10. 2 into 10 is,
5.
times 1 is,
5.
and that number is red,
5/10.
which we can write as a decimal. Then we'll go 2 places to the right, again putting on a 0, and we get 50%. The next one is 21/30. We can see that we do not already have 10 or 100 on the bottom. Can we make it 10 or 100 by raising it up to higher terms?
No.
No, we can't, but we can reduce it. What would you like to hit them with to reduce it?
7.
Well, 7 will go into 21, but it will not go into 30. Try again. What number will go into both the top and bottom numbers?
3.
3. 3 into 21 is?
7.
There's your 7. And 3 into 30 is?
10.
10. Just what we wanted. 7/10. And here I should write
7.7.
0.7. And I have to add a,
0.
so I can move the decimal point 2 places to the,
Right.
and get what for my answer?
70%.
70%. So we see the general rule for changing a decimal to a percent is to move the decimal point 2 places to the right and to add a percent sign. And the general rule for changing a percent into a decimal is to take away the percent sign and move the decimal point 2 places to the left. There are some percents that are so easy and you use so often that you should know them automatically without even having to think. Among them are the ones involving tenths, such as 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, and so on. Let's start with 10%. I need to move the decimal place back to the left 2 places. and I get 0.10. Read me that number.
10 hundredths.
But I can take off this 0 here if I want to and still have the same number. Now read me that number.
1/10.
And I'll write that as a fraction. Can that be reduced?
No.
No, it can't. 10%, 1/10. The next one is 20%. Going back 2 places, I get 0.20. Read that number.
20 hundredths.
And now read it.
2/10.
2/10. 10%, 1/10. 20%, 2/10. But 2/10 can be reduced. With what number can I hit both the top and the bottom?
2.
2 into 2 is?
1.
And 2 into 10 is?
5.
So you should know automatically that 1/5 is the same thing as 20%. You should get to know that so well that you won't even have to think about it. Now, you can do 30% and 40% by yourselves in your worksheets. Now, let's do 50%. We take off the percent sign and we go back 2 places to the
Left.
we get 0.50, take off the 0, and we can read it now as
5/10.
5/10. 10%, 1/10. 20%, 2/10. 30%, 3/10. 40%, 4/10. 50%, 5/10. Can 5/10 be reduced?
Yes.
With what number can we hit both the top and bottom number?
5.
5 into 5 is?
1.
And 5 into 10 is?
2.
You need to know that 1/2 is 50%. And that 50% is 1/2. You need to know it automatically. Now you can work out the ones for 60%, 70%, 80%, and 90% by yourselves on your worksheets. Here's a few more percents that you should know automatically. The first one comes from this fraction. Please read that fraction for me.
1/4.
I'm going to change that to a fraction that has 10 or 100 on the bottom. What number should I put on the bottom?
100.
100. 4 goes evenly into 100 how many times?
25.
25 hundredths. How do I write 25 hundredths as a decimal?
0.25.
0.25. Moving it over 2 places to the right and add a percent sign. And what is that percent?
25%.
So you need to know that 1/4 is 25%. 2/4. Well, 2/4 we can immediately reduce to what?
1/2.
1/2, hitting the top and bottom with 2. And we should by now automatically know that 1/2 is how much percent?
50%.
50%. And the way to work that out is to know that 1/2 is equal to 5/10, which is 0.5. We can add a 0 before we move it over 2 places to the right, but that's one you should know so well that as soon as you see 1/2, you immediately know that it's 50%. And there's one more in your worksheet that you can do on your own, 3/4. Now there are some percents that you'll see very often, but they're not so easy that you should know them automatically. But they're so important that you'll need to memorize them. And you'll find out it's quite a bit of work to figure them out each time if you haven't memorized them. But there are only 8 of them. The first one is from the fraction 1/8. Does that fraction already have a 10 or 100 as a bottom number?
No.
Can you make it 10 or 100?
No.
No, you can't, because 8 will not go evenly into 10, and it will not go evenly into 100. We also cannot reduce it, so we have to divide the bottom into the top. 8 into 1.0. And we'll see that we need to go that far. 8 into 10 goes.
1.
Times 8 is.
8.
Subtract, get,
2.
and bring down the 0. 8 into 20 goes.
2.
2 times 8 is.
16.
20, take away 16 is.
4.
And bring down the 0. 8 into 40.
5.
5 times 8 is 40, and it comes out even in the thousandths place. Read me what this number says.
125,000.
125 thousandths. Now we have to move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add a percent sign. 2 places to the right gives us 12.5%. How would you read that number?
12 5/10.
12 and 5/10%. And I'm going to write down exactly what you said, but I'm going to put the 5/10 as a fraction, and it is, of course, still a percent. I've just written the 5/10 part of it as a fraction instead of as a decimal. The 5/10 can be reduced to what?
1/2.
And then we get 12 and 1/2%. And we'll erase this as we don't need it anymore, and so that we can see our answer more clearly. 12 and 1/2% is the same as the fraction 1/8, and that is one that you need to memorize. The next one is 3/8. We don't have to do 2/8 because 2/8 is the same thing as 1/4, And you already know automatically that 1/4 is 25%. But 3/8 is one you're going to have to work out now with me, and then you're going to have to memorize it. Again, we are going to have to divide the bottom into the top. 8 into 3.000. Just like the other, it's going to come out evenly in the thousandths place. 8 into 30.
3.
3 times 8.
24.
30, take away 24.
6.
6. Bring down the 0. 8 into 60.
7.
7 times 8.
56.
60, take away 56.
4.
Bring down the 0. 8 into 40.
5.
5. And 5 times 8 is 40, and it has come out evenly. For the decimal, we write 0.375, and how is that read?
375 thousandths.
Moving the decimal point 2 places to the right, we get 37.5%. And how do we read that number?
37.5.
37.5%. And I will change the decimal part of that to a fraction and still read it 37.5%. And the 5/10 again can be reduced to what?
1/2.
1/2. So as you can see, it was quite a bit of work to find out that 3/8 is 37.5%. So you need to memorize it so you'll never have to do that work again. Now, on your own, with your worksheets, do the work for 5/8 and 7/8. Now we're going to try another one, 1/3. Again, we have to divide the bottom number into the top. 3 into 1.0. How many 3's are there in 10?
3.
3. 3 times 3 is
9.
subtract, get,
1.
and put a 0 here and bring it down. How many 3's in 10?
3.
3 times 3 is
9.
subtract and get.
1.
Now you can probably see that we're going to have a repeating decimal of 0.3 repeating. And we show that by putting a line or a bar over the 3. But in order to help us make this into a percent, we are going to carry out the division so that we have filled 2 decimal places, and then we're going to take the remainder and make it into a fraction. 1 left over. 1 what?
1/3.
1/3. And we're going to say that's also equal to 0.33 1/3. And I won't even ask you to read that number. That's a rather strange looking number. It's a decimal, but it's a fraction. What is it? Well, it's not a number that we're going to use like that. But we'll keep it like that so we can turn it into a percent. we're going to move the decimal point over 2 places to the right. Then it will say 33 and 1/3. But we won't need to keep the decimal point there for it to say 33 and 1/3, because if we write it like this, that's the way we'll read it. 33 and 1/3, and of course we have to add the percent sign. So that's another one to memorize, that 1/3 is the same thing as 33 and 1/3%. Now, you try on your own in your worksheets 2/3. And I'll do one more with you, 1/6. 1/6. Again, we divide 6 into 1.0. 6 goes into 10.
Once.
1 times 6.
6.
Subtract, get.
4.
Add a 0 and bring it down. How many 6s in 40?
6.
6 times 6.
36.
Subtract, get.
4.
Now you can probably see that it's going to repeat. We'll bring down another 0 and we'll have 6 into 40 again. The number that repeats is the 6. So we have to write it as 0.16 with a line over the 6, because only the 6 is repeating. Again, we're just going to carry out this division to 2 places and make a fraction out of the remainder. There are 4 left over. 4 what?
4/6.
4/6. But before I write it there, I think I'd like to reduce it. We can hit both the 4 and the 6 with what number?
2.
2 into 4 is?
2.
And 2 into 6 is?
3.
4/6 becomes 2/3, and we have another one of these funny looking decimal fraction numbers. 0.16 and 2/3. We'll move the decimal point over 2 places. We won't need it anymore, and we will have 16 and 2/3%. And you should memorize that 16 and 2/3% always comes from 1/6, and that 1/6 is the same thing as 16 and 2/3%. Now, you go ahead and do the work on your own for 5/6. It's done very much the same way as this one. So those are the percents that you'll need to memorize. Here are the answers for the ones you did on your own. 5/8.
62.5%.
7/8.
87.5%.
2/3.
66 and 2/3.
And 5/6.
83 and 1/3%.
During the next few sections of the video, I'll leave this chart up here on the board for you to be able to look at, and then after a while you'll have them memorized and you won't need that chart anymore. The next section in your workbook you should try on your own first. There's nothing in there that you don't already know how to do. And after you've finished that practice section, then come back to the video and I'll show you how you should have done them. Okay, let's see how you did. The first one was a decimal. Please read it for me.
125 thousandths.
Now, without doing a lot of work, you should be able to recognize that as one of your memory percents. 125 thousandths is 12.1/2%, and it came from the fraction 1/8. The next one is 2/5. This is one of the ones that we said that you should know automatically, because 2/5 can be raised up to how many tenths?
4.
4/10. 4/10 is written as 4/10, which you know automatically is 40%. The next one is 75%. That's another one that you're supposed to know automatically, that it comes from 3/4, and of course, as a decimal, going back 2 places, it is 0.75, and how is that read?
75 hundredths.
The next one is a fraction 8/16. Well, that can be reduced. With what number should we hit both the top and bottom?
8.
8 into 8 is?
1.
8 into 16 is?
2.
Read that one.
1/2.
How much percent is 1/2?
50%.
Yes, you have to know that automatically. And of course, if you raise it to tenths, it would be how many?
5/10.
5/10 as a decimal. The next one says 0.3 repeating. What kind of a percent is that?
A memory percent.
That's one of the ones you memorized. 0.3 repeating comes from what fraction?
1/3.
1/3. And is how much percent?
33 1/3%.
33 1/3%. The next one is 6%. That is not one that you should know automatically, and it's not a memory percent, so we'll have to do a little work on that one. To change it from a percent to a decimal, we move the decimal point 2 places to the
Left.
we have to put a 0 in there, and we get 0.06. How is that number read?
6 hundredths.
6 hundredths. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
With what number can we hit both the 6 and the 100?
2.
2 into 6 is?
3.
2 into 100 is?
50.
50. 3/50. The next one is 56%. Again, we have to change that to a decimal by going 2 places to the
Left.
and we get 0.56. How do we read that?
56 hundredths.
And I'll just write what you said, 56 hundredths. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
What number would you like to hit them with?
2.
Some say 2, some say maybe 4. Shall we try 4?
Yes.
We know that 4 goes into 100. That's easy. How many times does 4 go into 100?
25.
25. 4 into 56 will do right over here on the side. 4 into 5 goes?
1.
1 times 4.
4.
Subtract and get.
1.
Bring down the
6.
4 into 16.
4.
It goes evenly 4 times. So we have 14 25ths. We'll just change that. 14 25ths. The next one says 37 1/2%. Well, is that some kind of special percent?
Yes.
Is it one that we should know automatically?
No.
But it's one that we should have memorized. Let's look and see if it's on the chart. Here it is. 37.5% comes from what fraction?
3/8.
3/8. And as a decimal, it is 0.375. 375. And how do we read that?
375 thousandths.
Now, suppose you didn't quite have that memorized and you didn't have your chart and you had to do all the work. You would say that 37.5% is the same thing as 37 5/10, still a percent. You just raise the 1/2 up to 5/10. Then you would have to say 37 5/10% with the 5/10 as a decimal. Then you'd have to move that 2 places to the left to get 0.375. And read this for me again.
375 thousandths.
375 thousandths. And then you'd have to reduce that. If you were going to reduce it, what number would you like to hit both top and bottom with?
25.
25. How many 25s are there in 300s?
12.
12, because there are 4 25s in each 100, and we have 3 of them. So we have 12 25s in there, plus how many in the 75?
3.
So the 12 of them plus the 3 of them is
15.
15. So that's just a review of a trick we've learned before about how to divide a number by 25 in your head. How many 25s are there in 100?
4.
So in 1,000?
40.
40. Well, can this 15/40ths be reduced anymore?
Yes.
With what number would you like to hit them?
5.
5 into 15 is?
3.
And 5 into 40 is?
8.
And there we get the 3/8 that we had before. So you can see it helps to have that memorized so you don't have to do all that work. Our next one is a decimal. 0.625. Is that one that you should know?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's one of your memory percents. 0.625 comes from what fraction?
5/8.
And that is how much percent?
62.5%.
The next one is the fraction 12/40ths. We'll need to reduce it. With what number shall we hit?
4.
4 into 12 is?
3.
And 4 into 40?
10.
3/10. Is that one that you should know?
Yes.
3/10 is how much percent?
30%.
30%. The next one is 9/12. We can reduce that. What number should we use?
3.
3 into 9.
3.
3 into 12.
4.
How much percent is 3/4?
75%.
75%. And as a decimal, 0.75. 8/12. Let's reduce it by using what?
4.
4 into 8.
2.
4 into 12.
3.
That one is a memory percent. 2/3 is how much percent?
66 and 2/3%.
66 and 2/3%. And the decimal is 0.6, repeating. 14/16. Let's reduce it by using
2.
2. 2 into 14.
7.
2 into 16.
8.
7/8 is a memory percent. How much percent is 7/8?
87.5%.
87.5%. And the decimal is 0.875. 4/16. Reduce it by hitting them with
4.
4 into 4.
1.
4 into 16.
4.
1/4 is how much percent?
25%.
25%. Or as a decimal, 0.25, 25 hundredths. The next one is the decimal 0.96. We can change it to a percent by moving the decimal point how many places to the right?
2.
And we get 96%. Read me that number.
96 hundredths.
Can it be reduced?
Yes.
What number shall we use to reduce it?
4.
We'll hit top and bottom with 4. 4 into 100.
25.
And 4 into 96 we'll do over here. 4 into 9.
2.
2 times 4.
8.
9 take away 8.
1.
Bring down the 6. 4 into 16.
4.
4 times 4.
16.
It came out even, and our answer is 24 25ths. The next one is the decimal 0.32. How much percent is that?
32%.
32%. We move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add the percent sign. Read it as a decimal.
32 hundredths.
And we'll write that as a fraction. Can we reduce it?
Yes.
By hitting them with
4.
4 into 100
25.
and 4 into 32,
8.
8/25ths. The next one is the decimal 0.6. Read it to me.
6 tenths.
6/10. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
We hit them with
2.
2 into 6,
3.
2 into 10,
5.
3/5. 3/5 or 6/10, you should know automatically is how much percent?
60%.
60%. The next one is 2/12. Let's reduce that by hitting them with
2. 2.
2 into 2.
1.
2 into 12.
6.
1/6 is another memory percent. And on our chart we can see that 1/6 is how much percent?
16 2/3%.
16 2/3%, or 0.16 with the 6 repeating. The next one is 83 1/3%. Is that one that we should know?
Yes.
Yes, it's a memory percent. What fraction does that come from?
5/6.
5/6, and as a decimal it's 0.83 with the 3 repeating. The next one is the fraction 4/25. Can we raise it to higher terms to get 10 or 100 on the bottom?
Yes.
We can raise it to hundredths. How many 25s in 100?
4.
Times 4,
16.
16 hundredths, written as a decimal as 0.16. And how much percent is that?
16%.
16% just by moving the decimal point 2 places to the right and adding the percent sign. The next one is 24/30. Can we make it 10 or 100 by raising it to higher terms?
No.
Let's reduce it. What would you like to hit it with?
6.
Well, you could hit it with 6. 6 into 24,
4.
and 6 into 30,
5.
5. But then you'd have to raise it up to tenths. Can you see a way to get it to tenths immediately? What?
Yes.
Yes, you can. What would you like to use to hit it with?
3.
3. Let's try 3. 3 into 24 is,
8.
and 3 into 30 is.
10.
So you could do it either way, but if you can see right away that you can get this down to 10, you can save yourself a step. 8/10 as a decimal is 0.8, and of course, how much percent is that?
80%.
80%. The next one is 7/20. Can we make that one 10 or 100 by raising it up?
Yes.
We can raise it up to 100. How many 20s in 100?
5.
Times 7,
35.
35 hundredths is 0.35, which is how much percent?
35%.
35%. Just move the decimal place over 2 to the right and add the percent sign. The next one is the decimal 0.65. How much percent is that?
65%.
65%. And read it to me as a decimal.
65 hundredths.
65 hundredths. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
What number shall we use to reduce it with?
5.
5. 5 into 100,
20.
and 5 into 65 will do over here. 5 into 6 is
1.
1 times 5.
5.
Subtract and get.
1.
Bring down the 5. 5 into 15
3.
times 5.
15.
It came out even as 13. 13/20. The next one is 1/50. Can we make the bottom number 10 or 100?
Yes.
We can make it 100. How many 50s in 100?
2. 2.
Times 1 is
2.
2 hundredths as a decimal has to be written as 0.02. And how much percent is that?
2%.
2%. 0.04. How much percent is that?
4%.
4%. And read that number to me.
400.
4 hundredths. We'd like to reduce it. What number should we use?
4.
4. How many 4s in 100?
25.
And how many 4s in 4?
1.
1/25 is the same thing as 4%. Here's our next percent, 100%. If we went out and bought a pizza and we ate 100% of it, how much of that pizza would we have eaten?
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Oh, that gives me a tummy ache. Let's make that into a decimal. To make it into a decimal, we have to move the decimal point back 2 places to the...
Left.
Well, where is the decimal point?
At the end.
At the end. We go back 2 places and put it between the 1 and the 0. And we get 1.0. And that shows us that if we ate 100% of the pizza, we would have eaten 1 pizza, 1 whole pie. And as a fraction, we'll just write it as the number 1. The next one is 1 1/2. Well, we can change that so that the fraction is raised to higher terms with 10 on the bottom. 2 into 10 is
5.
times 1 is
5.
1 5/10, and we can write that as 1.5. Then, to change it to a percent, we need to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. 1 and another place. What do we put in the empty place?
0.
A 0. Then we move it over and we have 150%. And there are some problems that we'll be doing later on that have percents that are more than 100%. The next one is 6/5. What can you tell me about that fraction, 6/5?
It's improper.
It's an improper fraction because the top number is bigger than the bottom number. It also shows us that it's talking about more than 1 whole thing. Well, let's change it to a mixed number. 5 into 6 goes how many times?
1.
1 times 5 is?
5.
Subtract, get?
1.
1 what?
1/5.
1/5. 6/5 is the same as 1 1/5, and we can change that to 1, and we'll see how many tenths. 5 into 10 goes?
2.
Times 1 is?
2.
1 2/10, which we can write as 1.2. Moving over 2 places to the right, we need to put in a
0.
and we get 120%. Well, if we want, we can save ourselves a little bit of work and just realize that the 1 is worth how much percent?
100.
And the 1/5 we should automatically know is worth how much percent?
20.
So we have 100% and 20%. If we put that all together, we'll have
120%.
And on the other one, 1 1/2. How much percent is the 1?
100.
How much percent is the 1/2?
50.
And how much are they all together?
150.
So that is a little shortcut that you can take to save yourselves some of these extra steps. Here's one that says 2.6. Read me that number.
2 6/10.
2 6/10. That's a mixed number with a whole number and a fraction. Can we reduce the fraction?
Yes.
What would you like to hit both these numbers with?
2.
2 into 6 is?
3.
And 2 into 10 is?
5.
Now to change the decimal into a percent, we move the decimal point 2 places to the right. 1, 2. In this place again we put a
0.
and we get 260%. Now we can say to ourselves the 2 is worth how much percent?
200.
And the 3/5 or the 6/10 is worth how much percent?
60.
So the 2 and the 3/5 all together is?
260%.
So sometimes we'll have percents that are more than 100%. Now the next section on the video is extras for experts. You shouldn't even look at it until you're sure that you understand everything that we've done so far. And if, when you begin to watch it, you find it's a little difficult, you can, if you like, skip it entirely and go right on to the test on page 8 of your booklet, because that test is just about the things you have to know and the things that you've learned already. But if you feel you'd like to try some that are a little bit trickier, then go ahead and watch the next section of the video. And now we're ready for extras for
Experts.
And our first extra is this big one. Read that one to me.
262.5%.
Is there something hidden in there that you should know?
Yes.
And what is it?
A memory percent.
A memory percent. 62.5% is how much as a fraction?
5/8.
5/8. This part of it here is 5/8. And what is 200% equal to?
2.
Just plain 2. So we see, if we work in the other direction, that 2 is 200% and the 5/8 is 62.5%. We also know that 62.5% is what as a decimal?
0.625.
So this is 2.625. So as long as we know our memory percents really well, we can see that sometimes they may be hidden in a larger number or a number that's more than 100%. Let's do another one. 2 1/3. how much percent is the 2?
200.
And how much percent is 1/3?
33 and 1/3%.
So the whole thing is
233 and 1/3%.
now the 2 and what is the decimal for 1/3?
0.3 repeating.
2.3 with the 3 repeating. 19/6. What kind of a fraction is that?
An improper fraction.
Let's divide the bottom into the top. 6 into 19. How many times does it go?
2,
And even more than that.
3,
3. 3 times 6 is?
18.
Subtract and get
1,
1 what?
1/6.
3 and 1/6. 19/6 is 3 and 1/6. 3 and what is the decimal for 1/6?
0.16 repeating.
0.1 with the 6th repeating. So here we had another one of our memory percents hidden in there. Now the 3 is how much percent?
300%.
And the 1/6 is how much percent?
66. 16 2/3%.
1/6 is 16 2/3%. So the whole thing altogether is how much of a percent?
316 2/3%.
Very good. What a mouthful that one was. Okay. How about this one? 3.375. The 3 is how much percent?
300%.
And the 0.375 is how much percent?
37 and 1/2%.
So the whole thing is 337 and 1/2%. The 3 and what is the fraction that 37.5% came from?
3/8.
3 and 3/8. The next one is 1.3 repeating. The 1 and what is the fraction for a repeating 3?
1/3.
1/3. The 1 is how much percent?
100%.
And the 1/3 is how much percent?
33 and 1/3%.
So altogether we have
133 and 1/3%.
So those are some percents that are greater than 100% and that have some of your memory percents hidden inside to make your work easier. Now we'll do something a little bit different. We have the fraction 7/200. 7/200. And we want to make that into a decimal first. Can we make it a fraction with 10 on the bottom?
No.
Can we make it a fraction with 100 on the bottom?
No.
But we can make it a fraction with 1,000. 1,000 on the bottom. How many 200s are there in 1,000?
5.
Very good. 200 into 1,000 is 5 times 7.
35.
35 thousandths. How do I write that as a decimal? I say
0.035.
and I move my decimal point 2 places to the right in between the 3 and the 5, and I get 3.5%. How do I read that?
3 5/10%.
3 5/10%, and I can reduce the 5/10 to what?
3 1/2%.
3 1/2%. The next one is 0.086. Moving over 2 places to the right, I get 8.6%. Read that to me.
8 6/10%.
8 6/10, and it's still a percent. All I've done is take the 6/10, which was a decimal, and write it as a fraction, but it's still a percent. Can I reduce the 6/10?
Yes.
I can hit both the 6 and the 10 with what?
2.
2 into 6 is,
3.
and 2 into 10 is
5.
8 3/5, and don't forget that it's still a percent. The next one is 3 1/4%. I'm going to have to change that back into a decimal. The first thing I'm going to do is raise this fraction part of it to higher terms so that I can have a 10 or 100 on the bottom. In this case, 100. How many 4s are there in 100?
25.
Times 1 is,
25.
and it is still a percent. Read this number to me.
325.
Yes, you've discovered that you haven't done it quite right. So let's start again. 3
2,500%.
3 25/100%. That's why these are extras for experts. Are you all going to be experts?
Yes.
Okay. 3 25/100%. It's still a percent. In order to make it into a decimal, we have to move the decimal point 2 places to the left and take away the percent sign. 2 places to the left gives us 0.0325, and we take away the percent sign. Went 2 places back and filled this place with a 0. Read for me that decimal.
325 10,000.
Yes, 10 thousandths. Can we reduce that fraction?
Yes.
And what number can we use to reduce it with?
25.
And we have a little trick for dividing by 25. How many 25s are there in the 300s?
12.
12. There's 4 in each 100. 300s gives us 12 of them. There's 12 in here, and how many 25s in this 25 right here?
1.
So how many altogether?
13.
The 12 plus the 1 is 13. How many 25s in 100?
4.
How many in that?
40.
And that?
400.
So we have 13 400ths. What happened here? I forgot something. Read me this number.
86 thousandths.
86 thousandths. Can it be reduced?
Yes.
With what number would you like to hit both the top and the bottom numbers?
2.
2. Let's play it safe and try 2. They were thinking about 4, but they weren't sure. Let's try 2. How many 2's are there in 1,000?
250.
Dividing it by 2. 2 into 1,000 is 500. How many 2's are there in 86? Well, we'll do that on the side. 2 into 8 is 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 into 6 is 3. 43 over 500. Did I forget anything else?
No.
Did I make any mistakes?
No.
I hope not. Let's take a look. I guess it's all right. Oh, those extras for experts really fry my brain. Are my experts still here, or did they all go home? Are you still here?
Yes.
Do you want to do more?
Yes.
Oh my, they're going to get trickier. But if they get trickier, we've got more tricks. Are you ready?
Yes.
The next one is 0.0125. We're going to change that to a percent by moving the decimal point 2 places to the
Right.
and we put it between the 1 and the 2, and we get 1.25%. Please read that number to me.
1.25%.
All I've done is write down what you said, but write down the 2500ths as a fraction. Can that fraction be reduced?
Yes.
What number can we use to hit both top and bottom with?
25.
25 into 25 goes,
Once.
and 25 into 100 goes
4.
1 1/4%. Now, read me this decimal number.
125 10,000ths.
10 thousandths. Now, can it be reduced?
Yes.
Is there something special I once taught you and told you to remember about 125 and 1,000? Who remembers how many 125s there are in 1,000? The members of the panel are consulting together, trying to determine what their answer will be. And while they consult together, I will tiptoe over here and see if there's a hint. How many 125s are there in 1,000? 8. That's right. They remembered with a little help. Okay, 125 into 125 is 1. 125 into 1,000 is
8.
So therefore it's
80.
80. 1/80th. Now that was an extra for experts, wasn't it? Here's another one. 1/200. We're going to raise that to higher terms, and we're going to have 1,000 as a bottom number. How many 200s in 1,000?
5.
5 times 1 is?
5.
5 thousandths. How do I write that as a decimal?
0.005.
I'm going to move it over 2 places to the right to make it into a percent. 0.5%. Please read me that number.
0.5%.
0.5% written with the 5/10 as a fraction. Can that fraction be reduced?
Yes.
Hitting both top and bottom with 5. 5/10 reduces to?
1/2.
Still a percent. So 1/2% is the same as 1/200. And here's a little trick to help you to get from here all the way to here in one step. If you have a percent that is just a fraction, a simple fraction in front of the percent sign, you can just take away the percent sign and put 2 more zeros in the bottom number. Putting 2 more zeros in the bottom number is like dividing by 100. And we have said that the percent sign means per 100 or dividing by 100. So if you take off the percent sign and put 2 zeros on the bottom, you'll get 1/200 right away. It's like coming around in a circle without having to do all that work. Let's do another one. 3/8%. Suppose I want to get the answer over here right away as a fraction, and I don't want to go through all that work just yet. What do I do with the percent sign?
Take it away.
And what do I put in place of it on the bottom?
2 zeros.
2 zeros. I take away the percent sign and I put 2 zeros after the 8, and I have 3/800. Now, is there something hidden in here that you should know about?
Yes.
3/8 is a memory percent, and we know that as a decimal, it's 0.375. So we can change the 3/8 to 0.375, but that's still a percent. We haven't changed it from a percent to a decimal. We've just taken this little fraction and changed that to a decimal, but both of them are still percents. In order to make it into a decimal, we have to go back 2 places and take away the percent sign. We get 0.00375. Please read me very carefully that number.
375 hundred thousandths.
100 thousandths. 1 more 0. And if we work at reducing that, we'll see we can get it down to 3 into 800. We could divide it by 25, but if we're beginning to learn about 125, we could see that 125 goes into that 3 times, just as 375 is 3/8, 625 is 5/8, because 5 times 125 is 625. 875 is 125 times 7. So if we hit it with 125, we'll get 3. And we know that 125 goes into 1,000 how many times? How many times does 125 fit into 1,000?
8.
So it goes into 10,000 and into 100,000.
800.
So these are little tricks that are a little bit new for you, or maybe they're so old that you haven't used them in a while. But if you get involved with these extras for experts, it helps to have them where?
At the tip of your tongue.
At the tip of your tongue. Let's do another one. 17.5%. Well, let's change it so that the 1/2 is a fraction that we can use with 10 on the bottom. 1/2 is how many tenths?
5.
5. And we must not forget that it's still a percent. 17.5%, and we can write it like this. It's still a percent. What do we have to do to make it into a decimal? We have to do what to the decimal point?
Move it over 2 places to the left.
And take away the percent sign. Moving it over, we get 0.175. Read that number to me.
175 thousandths.
175 thousandths. That one isn't so hard to reduce. What number would you like to hit them with?
25.
How many 25s in the 100?
4.
And in the 75?
3.
Altogether?
7.
And how many 25s in 100?
4. 40.
7/40ths. Well, let's see if we can find a shortcut. Here's a special little trick. We can take this mixed number and change it into an improper fraction. We could say that 2 times 17 is what? 17 times 2 is 34. Plus 1 is 35 halves, isn't it? I barely have room to write it here. 35 halves percent. Then, if we want to change that to a fraction, we just take away the percent sign and add 2 zeros, and we'll get 35 over 200. Let's write that way over here. 35 over 200. If we got that without having to do all this work, then we could reduce that by hitting these with what number?
5.
5 into 35 is 7. 5 into 200 is 40. And that would be a tricky little shortcut for changing that percent into a fraction. We could use the same trick up here. 4 times 1 is?
4.
Plus 1 is?
5.
5 fourths, still a percent. If we want to change it to a fraction, we take away the percent sign and put 2 zeros on the bottom. 5 400ths. Hitting both top and bottom with what number?
5.
5 into 5 is 1, and 5 into 400 is 80, and we could have gone from here to here and then to here without doing all the rest of this work. A very fancy little trick. Here's one more. 0.00625. Do you see anything hidden in there that looks like you should know it?
Yes.
We see something that has to do with a memory percent. 625. Well, let's see what happens. We're going to move it over 2 places to the right and get 0.625%. But 625 comes from what fraction?
5/8.
So we have 5/8%. If we want to change this percent to a fraction, we just take off the percent sign, put 2 zeros on the bottom, and we get 5 over what?
800.
5 over 800. Read for me this number.
625 hundred thousandths.
625 100 thousandths. And if we recognize this number, we'll know how many 125s there are in there. How many 125s are there in 625?
5.
5. And 125 goes into 1,000 how many times?
8.
So then,
80.
and
800.
800. So, are you experts still there?
Yes.
From now on, they have to get easier. They couldn't get any harder, right?
Right.
Well, we'll see. Oh, the smoke in this room. These brains are just fried, these experts. Are you still here, experts?
Yes.
You want to do more?
Yes.
Now, I warned you before we started that this was for experts, and you didn't have to do these. And you don't have to know these, though they do sometimes pop up. Funny percents like this that require a little extra work. But there's nothing here that you didn't really know before. It's just a matter of changing fractions to decimals like you've learned before, or moving decimal points 2 places to the right and adding a percent sign, or moving them 2 places to the left and taking away a percent sign. Do you believe that?
Yes.
Yes. They're not so sure, but they said yes. Okay, now we're going to put together everything we've learned. Extras for experts. How about this one? 3/8. Does anybody know the answer? How much percent?
37.5%.
37.5%. How did you know that so quickly?
It's a memory percent.
It's a memory percent right here on our chart, and the decimal is 0.375. How about this one? 3/80ths. What can we do with that? Well, Uncle Dan, we recognize something in there. What do we see?
3/8.
3/8. So we know somewhere in there, there's going to be a 3/7/5. Let's write that down. Well, let's try. Let's try to raise that to higher terms. Will 80 go evenly into 100?
No.
Will it go evenly into 1,000?
Yes. No.
Some say yes, some say no. Let's find out. 80 into 1,000. 80 goes into 100.
Once.
1 times 80.
80.
Subtract and get.
20.
Bring down the 0. How many 80s in 200?
2.
2 times 80. 160. Subtract and get.
40.
Well, it didn't come out even yet. Let's put another 0. This time we'll try to see if it'll go into 10,000. How many 80s in 400? 5. 5 times 80 is 400. So 80 goes into 10,125 times. And what is 125 times 3? What is 125 times 3?
375.
375 10,000ths. As a decimal, that's 0.0375. The 0 here made us go back a space from 375 to 0.0375. Now let's change it to a percent. Move it over 2 places. The decimal point goes between the 3 and the 7. 3.75%. Please read me that number.
3.75
Percent. Can that 75/100ths be reduced?
Yes.
To what?
3/4.
3 3/4%. Now, is there anything else we can do with that? Let's try our special little trick. 4 times 3 is?
12.
Plus 3 is?
15.
So it's also equal to 15/4%. And we did that so we could take away the percent sign and put 2 zeros on the bottom and get 15/400. Can that be reduced?
Yes.
With what number should we reduce it?
5.
5 into 15 is?
3.
5 into 400 is?
80.
And that brings us right back where we started. It's like Columbus sailing around the world, going west to find the east. We started here, we went all the way through this and back around and got to the same answer. Let's do another one. This time we'll do 3/800. Do we have a special trick for that?
Yes.
We can take off the 2 zeros and add what to make it a percent?
A percent sign.
Let's see what happens. 3, take off the 2 zeros, and add the percent sign. We learned how to do it this way. We learned how to take off the percent sign and add the 2 zeros. Now we see the 2 zeros on the bottom. We just take them off and add the percent sign on the end. 3/8% is the same thing as 3/800. Now what's that going to be as a decimal? Do we recognize this 3/8 as being something special?
Yes.
we know that 3/8 comes from the decimal 0.375. So we have 0.375%. It's still a percent. We've just changed this fraction to a decimal. To change it into a real decimal, we have to go back how many places to the left?
2.
0.00375. We take off the percent sign. Well, we can see that when we had 3/8, it was 0.375. 3/80ths made us go back a space to 0.0375. And 3/800ths made us go back 2 spaces to 0.00375. And if you want, you can read me this number.
375 hundred thousandths.
We can divide both top and bottom by 125. How many 125s are there in 375?
3.
3. How many 125s are there in 1,000?
1.
How many 125s in 1,000?
8.
In 10,000?
80.
In 100,000?
800.
800. Here we go again. 2 1/4%. Let's change that right away to a fraction by using our special trick. 4 times 2 is?
8.
Plus 1 is?
9.
9/4% as a fraction will equal what? 9 over 400. Now, let's work it back this way and see if we can get the same answer. 1/4 is what as a decimal?
25
Hundredths. So we have 2 25/100ths%. I skipped for you this little step of saying 2 25/100ths% because I know that you know that 1/4 is 25/100ths. Let's move that back 2 places and take away the percent sign. 0.0225. Read that number.
225 10,000ths.
225 10,000ths. If we want to reduce it, what number should we use?
25.
How many 25s in 200ths?
8.
Plus how many more in here?
1.
Makes
9.
how many 25s in 100?
4. 40. 400.
9 over 400. The next one is 22 1/2%. Let's try that same trick. What is 2 times 22?
44.
Plus 1.
45.
That's 45 over 2, 45/2%. I'll write it up here because I don't have any room. To change that to a fraction, I take off the percent sign and add what?
2 zeros.
2 zeros on the bottom. 45 over 200. Can that be reduced?
Yes.
How many 5s? 5s is the number we'll use. How many 5s are there in 45?
9.
How many 5s are there in 20?
4, 40.
49 40ths. Well, we can work it back this way, or we can go this way. Let's go this way this time. Let's raise it up to a fraction with 1,000 on the bottom. How many 200s are there in 1,000?
5.
And 45 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2, 225. 225 thousandths. How do I write that as a decimal?
225.
Making that into percent by moving over 2 places, I get 22.5%. Please read me that number.
22 and 5/10%.
And the 5/10 reduces to 1/2 and brings us back where we started. How about 225%? That's more than 100%. Well, let's move the decimal point back 2 places, and we get 2.25. Read me that number.
2 and 25 hundredths.
2 and 25 hundredths. And what does that reduce to?
2 and 1/4.
And let's just make that into an improper fraction. 4 times 2 is?
8.
Plus 1 is?
9.
9/4. So these three are also kind of a set. 9 400ths, 9 40ths, and 9/4. The same numbers, but the decimal point is in a different place. 9/4 puts it here. 9/40 says go back a space, and 9/400 says go back another space. We have just 3 more for you for your extras for experts. The next one is 1.8. How much percent is that? We have to go 2 places to the right, and we get how much percent?
180%.
Read me this number, 1.8.
1 and 8/10.
And we can reduce that to 1 and what?
4/5.
1 and 4/5. And let's see what that is as an improper fraction. 5 times 1 is?
5.
Plus 4 is?
9.
9/5. The next one is 0.18. How much percent is that?
18%.
18%. And this number, as you read it, is what?
1800.
Which reduces to, when you hit it with 2, 2 into 18 is?
9.
And 2 into 100 is?
50.
9/50. And the last one is 0.018. Moving over 2 places to the right, 1.8%. Please read me that number.
1 and 8/10%.
And you can reduce it to 1 and 4/5%. 18 thousandths. 18 thousandths. Let's hit the top and bottom with what number?
2.
2 into 18 is?
9.
2 into 1,000 is?
500.
500. Let's go back over here and say 5 times 1 is?
5.
Plus 4 is?
9.
9/5%. We can take away the percent sign and put 2 zeros on the bottom and come all the way over here to get 9/500. And these three are also a set. 9/5, 9/50, 9/500. We have the same numbers over here, but the decimal point is in a different place. Every time we put a 0 on the bottom, it's like dividing by 10 or going back one place to 0.18 or another place to 0.018. So these are a little bit of special tricks when dealing with fractions and decimals and percents so that you can just manipulate them and convert them from one to another. Most of the time you will not have conversions and manipulations that are this difficult, but I thought that some of you would like to see them and have some fun with them. In the rest of your booklet, there are a few places where it says optional, extras for experts. And if you have watched this section of the video and understand it, then you can try those problems. But if you skipped the extras for experts, then skip those problems as well.
Golden Age Productions, Golden Age Productions, standing in the gap of your educational needs.